Hello and welcome to the STAR training that has to do with state testing security. We're going to cover that particular topic for our 2019-2020 school year. Please note that this training that we're going through here today does not take the place of reading the appropriate manuals and other resources that you have available regarding state testing security through TEA. We just don't have enough time in any one of our trainings to cover everything in great detail. So just make sure that you're reading and going through your manual when that time comes. Okay, so let's talk about training requirements for just a few minutes. So who must be trained? The short answer is essentially everybody. Anyone who could handle secure test materials. So that includes administrators, test administrators, anyone who is working in the hall as relief staff or bathroom monitors, technology staff. We include with test security our paraprofessionals and secretaries, because you never know if they might be, if some of you guys might be called in to help us out on a test day, and you have to have at least this part of training on test day to be able to help us in really any form or fashion. So what are the training components? Okay, so we have annual training in test security and test administration procedures. The training that we're doing here today fulfills the test security portion for that training. We will do test administration procedures when we get a little bit closer to STAR training. We have the STAR online training modules. Those of you that have been here for a long time know that the district used to make sure that everybody on campus completed the STAR online training modules. Last year, the district changed that rule, and now only new members to Allen ISD, so new staff to Allen ISD, have to complete the online training modules. In addition, anyone who was involved in a procedural or serious test irregularity will be required to complete those online training modules as well. Those of you that will need to complete the STAR online training modules will receive a message later on with the details for how to access those and when those need to be turned in. In addition, there is some special preparatory training that's necessary for teachers that are working in rooms with designated supports. If there are different test delivery methods like the online, some examples could be, like it says down here, oral administration has special testing procedures, basic transcription. Online test administrators have a little bit different testing methods than in terms of what we do with the normal paper. STAR Alternate 2 has its own set of preparatory training that is their administration procedures, and then those of you that are involved in TELPAS and TELPAS Alternate also have training for those particular programs. So on the oath we will sign later on, but I wanted to go over the oath right now. There's only one oath this year. It's a little bit different. When you see it, you'll notice that it looks different than what it has looked like in the past. It is a front and back oath. You're going to complete all the statements in the first section, and you'll do signatures at the end. Anyone who is a non-certified personnel will write in their name with the little box that's kind of listed here on the PowerPoint, and whoever your supervisor that is attached to you, you would write those person's name in that box. Those would be the person that would kind of look after you in terms of how you do your things with the test administration, if you have any duties with test administration for this school year. There's only one oath, like I said. It covers anybody that's a test administrator, a principal, a technology person. It takes into account TELPAS, STAR Alternate 2. There's just one oath for all those programs this year. So your test administrator manual, when you receive this, you kind of see that there are different administrator manuals. Most of you are only going to be getting that first one, the STAR Test Administrator Manual. We will be putting those in boxes. as we get a little bit closer to testing season. The TELPAS Rater Manual, those of you that are involved in TELPAS and are a TELPAS Rater have already been told this, but that manual has been moved into a completely online format where it is no longer available in print. The TELPAS Test Administrator Manual is available for test administrators who are going to be giving the online portions of TELPAS. STAR Alternate 2 Test Administration Manual is for those teachers that are involved in STAR Alternate 2. And then our TELPAS Alternate Test Administrative Manual is for those teachers who have involvement in TELPAS Alternate. So let's spend some time talking in detail about test security. We're going to spend the next several slides going over test security. So as we're talking about test security, you can see here, maintaining the security and confidentiality of all Texas Student Assessment Program is critical for ensuring fair and equal testing opportunities for students. Let's think about this. These are high stakes tests. They associated with student performance, and so we need to be able to tell all our stakeholders, parents, students, the public, that the test results are meaningful and valid, so that since that's the case, we are dedicated to make sure that we participate in the program and that we preserve the integrity of our test content, and we make sure that the student data is accurate and we strictly adhere to the instructions and procedures that are contained in any test administration manual and the resources that are provided by TEA. This protects you as a test administrator, it protects us as a school, and foremost, it protects our students to ensure that they are receiving a fair and accurate test administration. So test security, it's in the law. It's in the law in several different places. It's in the Texas Education Code, specifically where it talks about security of administration of assessment instruments. It's in the Texas Administrative Code. It's in the Texas Government Code, and it also is located in the Texas Penal Code. So test security and confidentiality. We're talking about accounting for all of our secure materials before, during, and after each test administration. So this includes those different categories you see there. Anyone who is handling secure materials. So anyone who might handle secure materials must be trained and must sign a security oath. This includes properly storing materials. So we have to think about where that location will be, and we limit access to that. So that's the secure testing area. We track the chain of custody through our transfer materials. We have procedures that track materials that are transferred from district to us, and then we have procedures to transfer materials to you guys on testing day. And then maintaining the integrity of tracking documentation, that is stored here, and it's also stored at admin, and it's available to be audited periodically. So in compliance with the confidentiality requirements, we have to make sure that we train all our testing personnel on their obligations about confidentiality, that we monitor our administrations to ensure that all assessments are administered with strict accordance with the test administration procedures, and that we investigate and report any alleged or confirmed breaches. So looking at that number 2 point, there's lots of checks and balances that our district puts in place as it pertains to what the district testing coordinator expects of us as campus testing coordinators. They send out individuals from district to help and come out and look and make sure that we're following procedures on test day. And they can send out people from TEA to come out and see how we're doing on testing. So, still on test security and confidentiality, what we're talking about with confidentiality is protecting the secure test content. And so you see here, these are the instruments that contain secure test content. So it would be any test booklet. That's secure material. That's kind of obvious. The online assessment, so the test itself that's given online. A student's online test ticket is considered a secure piece of material. A completed answer document is a secure material. STAR Alternate 2, stimulus, images, and text, so that's specifically for those teachers involved in that. TELPAS calibration activities, so when our TELPAS raters get together and calibrate. That is secure test content. And then the holistically rated components of TELPAS. So the writing samples, once those are collected, are considered secure test content. In addition, for me as a campus testing coordinator, I'm required to collect and destroy reference material, scratch paper, graph paper, any approved supplemental aids that students used and that wrote on during the test. That includes any student that has a typed or printed composition for basic transcription, or if they have a griddable answer document for a math administration. Some general reminders is that duplications of the composition is prohibited. We do get back on the main administration. We get images of what the students write, and those can be very helpful for our teachers, but we cannot duplicate the actual writing of the composition during the test. Any kind of reference material, like I said, must be returned back to me, and then I have a procedure for destroying that. And then, when we're dealing with teenagers, there's always going to be some unexpected situations. We always ask that if you have any doubt about what you are seeing in the classroom with a student, that you ask. If you're not sure what to do, make sure that you ask. What you think or what someone else tells you that they believe is accurate may not necessarily be the case. So it's always better to reach out to your hall monitors, hall captains, and let them get with me to make sure that we're making the proper decision. And if I don't know the answer, then I contact district and they help me make sure that I'm following the procedures. So as it pertains to technology, during assessments, we all know that our kids are very much tied to their technology nowadays. We are required by law to have a procedure in place to prevent the use of cell phones and electronic devices during test administrations. So we have an electronic device statement that we ask for you guys to read before the test. That kind of helps us understand and make sure that students understand what is expected of them. The Test Star login is a specific login for students who are allowed the opportunity to use a computer to type an administration or type a composition. We have iPad and calculator and dictionary apps that are out there that can be approved, and then there's other processes to look at and approve technology-related items. So penalties for violation of test security and confidentiality can include, of course, invalidating the student's test results. And everything we talk about here is we don't want anything to be put in place that is going to invalidate or hurt a student's results. So that's first and foremost. That's why irregularities are so important. Another penalty could be that you could be referred to ASBEC for potential sanctions. You could have a restriction, a reprimand, a suspension, or a revocation completely of a teaching license. It can be a Class C misdemeanor in certain cases if you are talking about releasing secure test content to the public. Schools can face lowering of their accreditation status or accountability rating for having excessive penalties, and then charter schools could have their charter sanctioned or revoked altogether. Okay, so let's spend some time talking about what irregularities are and some incidents that we can do to ensure that they don't happen for us on test day. So incidents resulting in a deviation from the documented testing procedures are defined as a testing irregularity. That is the state's definition for a testing irregularity. They do fall into one of two categories. They are either considered serious or procedural. We're going to talk about serious ones first. With serious irregularities, you're looking at things that kind of follow these patterns. They could be a severe violation of test security and confidentiality. They must immediately be investigated by the district testing coordinator, so it involves a very extensive investigation. They are reported to TEA automatically as soon as the district testing coordinator is made aware of the violation. And these are the types of irregularities where individuals could be referred to the TEA Educator Certification and Standards Division for any kind of further disciplinary action. So some examples are directly or indirectly assisting students with responses to test questions, tampering with student responses, falsifying any kind of holistic rating or student responses in TELPAS, viewing secure test content before, during, or after an administration unless you're specifically authorized by the TEA or by the procedures outlined in the test administration manuals. This one can become a little bit tricky because we do have students that from time to time feel like they have an issue with their test booklet or their test screen, and they call you, and your first inkling would be to go help that student and look at what that student is looking at. But really and truly, all you can do, you are not allowed to look at that content. You would be allowed to have the student describe to you what is happening, and then you would probably need to get further guidance, and we might need to call TEA in a case and ask whether we're able to look at the actual test booklet or the responses that they have online. So just know that you're not supposed to be viewing the test materials as you're going through. Discussing or disclosing secure test content or student responses. Scoring tests formally or informally. Duplicating, recording, or electronically capturing any confidential test content unless you have authorization from TEA to do so. Oh, back to that. Including capturing error codes on the online STAR, because sometimes with online STAR, if something goes wrong, it'll pop up an error code, and so we have this tendency to want to take a picture of that error code. Well, that would be duplicating and recording, so we cannot take a picture of any error code that we see. Some more examples: responding to test questions for students, fraudulently exempting or preventing a student from participating in an administration that they're supposed to participate in, receiving or providing any kind of unallowable assistance during calibration for TELPAS, encouraging or assisting an individual to engage in the conduct that we described in the last couple of slides, or failing to report an appropriate authority that an individual has engaged or is suspected of engaging in any of the content that we described in the last few slides. So procedural irregularities. These things are the ones that tend to happen more often. They are errors. We don't want them to happen, but sometimes they do, and we just have to learn from them and move forward. So a procedural irregularity is a reflection of a minor error or deviation from the test procedures. They are not severe breaches in security or confidentiality. They do not require a call to TEA unless there is guidance needed, but they are still reported to TEA. So just because we don't have to call them automatically to get guidance doesn't mean that we still don't have to report these items to the Texas Education Agency. It does not require additional documentation to be submitted with the district's incident report. With serious irregularities, you're sending in a lot of different documentation that goes along with that. So some common examples that we see mainly are eligibility errors, accommodations errors, and monitoring errors. So like I said, they do kind of fall into one of these following categories. Monitoring errors. You've got to actively monitor and make sure that your students are doing what they're supposed to and they're getting answers put down on the paper like they're supposed to. Accommodations errors. Those are things that where a student is either receives an accommodation they're not supposed to, or they do not receive an accommodation they were supposed to have. Eligibility errors, where we test a student who wasn't eligible to test, or we miss a student who was eligible to test. A proper accounting for secure materials, where something is not accounted for in its proper way. And then other things like not using the test script, mistiming, so undertiming or overtiming, having untrained personnel work in the testing administration, or having a wrong materials issued to a student, which does happen. We have a lot of students with very similar names, and we have to be very, very careful that we are making sure that the materials are being handed out to the right student. And now, the last few years with us having TestHound, not only do we have answer documents with student names, we also have test booklets with students' names, and so that's a double thing there for you to make sure that you're checking on. How can you prevent incidents? Number one, first and foremost, read your manual and any other training materials well prior to testing day. Review your testing roster and accommodations information. One of the things that we do with those of you that help with us that have accommodations is we come see you beforehand and we review that with you. So make sure that you are aware of what's going on in your test room and that you understand what accommodations you're giving. You must ensure that students receive the correct test booklet and answer document, or if they are on the testing online, that they're getting the right test ticket. You have to have an accurate seating chart. You have to announce the time left to test in 1 hour intervals. That helps the student know how much time they have left, and it should guide them to make sure that they're getting their answers written down. Verify that your students have recorded their responses on the answer document or in the online form. Like I said before, if you have any doubts, ask. Please don't wait until testing has concluded to ask a question or report something. And like I said, actively monitor. So let's talk about what to do if you actually have an incident occur in your classroom on test day. Like I said before, all confirmed testing irregularities must be reported to TEA regardless of whether they are serious or procedural in nature. The reports will explain what happened and how it occurred. It's going to outline the sequence of events of the day. It's going to have information about how we resolve the problem or remedy the problem there at the time. A determination regarding the irregularity. You will provide a plan of action that will be put in place, and then also the campus testing coordinator will also put in a plan of action. So you're going to be asked, what can I do to make sure this doesn't happen again? And on the same respect, I'm going to be asked the same question. Serious irregularities, like I said, must be notified as soon to the district coordinator, and they have to let TEA know as soon as we let them know. There's a prompt investigation. There is documentation that will be collected and submitted, and so some of the documentation that you have to send in, if it is a serious irregularity, is signed and dated statements from all the individuals involved, a district determination regarding the violations allegedly committed, any notes that they would interview, analysis conducted in support of the district's findings, oaths and training confirmation for the people that are involved, and any punitive actions taken against those individuals. As it pertains to cheating, if we determine that a student is involved in cheating, either by providing or receiving assistance, we are required to invalidate the student's test right then and right there. The district testing coordinator will contact TEA if the student electronically captures any portion of a test or answer document, because that's much more, that's a much higher level of a cheating kind of issue. If there's any disciplinary action that we take against the students, must be documented on a form called a locally determined disciplinary action form, and that is something typically that our principals would handle. So let's talk about materials handling and what your role is in terms of a test administrator or a staff that is helping with testing. So once you check out the materials, you're going to maintain the security of those materials while they're in your possession. Really important, because this happens especially during the English administration. We will typically still be testing during lunch, and so booklets will be closed, collected, and they need to be supervised during the lunch to make sure that they're not talking about the test. But it's really important to pick up the booklets during lunch if we have a lunch break during the test. Test administrators may not ask students to transport their own booklet to another location, so if we have a situation in which we remove a student from one testing area to be put into another testing area, a test administrator, hall captain, hall monitor will be the individual that would transport those materials. Test administrators must actively monitor students at all times, and then for us, myself and campus administrators, we have to ensure that we are actively monitoring as well our testing rooms, the hallways, the restrooms, to make sure that proper procedures are in place. You've seen this before, but what is active monitoring? It's monitoring all students at all times. It's circulating around the room, making sure they're working on the right section, making sure they're getting their answers put on their answer document, and making sure that they don't have things that they're not supposed to. That means that you are not reading or filing papers or grading, working on the computer. No computer should be turned on in any test room unless the student has basic transcription and they're going to type an essay. You should not have your phone on. Your phone should be turned completely off during test day, and you should not be communicating via your phone in any form or fashion. If you need to communicate with someone during the test, step outside, ask for a hall captain, hall monitor, they will help you. Any other task that could keep you from doing what you're supposed to be doing in terms of monitoring is not active monitoring. Remember, it's there, it's essential. It protects you and it protects the student. Like I said, it's really critical that we're monitoring regularly in our test rooms. Like I said, it protects you, it protects the students. We have procedures in place to ensure monitoring during restroom and lunch breaks. We have to have procedures in place to verify that test administrators are actively monitoring during testing. And so our hall captains and hall administrators will view those testing rooms, and they may come in and ask you if they've been by your room several times and they've never seen you up circulating in the classroom. You know, there's no expectation from us that you are going to be walking around the classroom the whole day, but at the same time, you need to make sure that you're up and about as much as possible. Like I said, the district monitors will visit campuses on testing days. They come in, they view our procedures, and they ask questions. TEA randomly selects districts and campuses for visits during testing days each year, so we never know. It could be one of those years where we're actually asked to have someone from TEA come and see how we do on test administration days. It is the test administrator's responsibility to monitor for blank answer documents. Really important. It's too late if the blank answer document is not discovered until the test session is over. There's some information about blank answer documents in the online training modules, but it's very, very important that we catch students with blank answer documents before we pick up their testing materials. So that concludes our test security training for the STAR session for spring of 2020. If you have any questions, please reach out to me personally at extension 6370 or send me an email at troy.lemons@allenisd.org. Thank you very much.